Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Aaron Torres Podcast YouTube page. If you could do me a quick favor, see that little subscribe button at the bottom of your screen? Go ahead, click that subscribe button. Really does help our channel grow, our audience grow, and I really do appreciate it more than you know. So click that subscribe button. Appreciate your support. Now, here's the video that you came here for. Matt Rhule spoke, and during Matt Rhule's podium, I got a quiet confidence that he thinks that Nebraska is going to be better than maybe a lot of other people expect. And I'll be blunt. I know that for like 15 straight off seasons, we've said that Nebraska is a step away from potentially being improved and being really good. But call me crazy. I think Nebraska, and especially listening to Matt Rhule speak, I think Nebraska might be one of the more underrated teams in all of college football going into this year. Now, I'll be totally transparent. I call this my Eminem in 8 Mile moment, where I always kind of put all my cards on the table. You know, remember that scene where he's on the stage, he goes, "I am white, I am an effing bum." It's like he just says everything that you're going to say about him, he just said. And so I bring it up because I've said this many times about Nebraska. I have a soft spot for Nebraska football in my heart, okay? Because when you look at Nebraska football, when I was a kid growing up, as I first started watching college football, Nebraska was kind of the it program of that time. 3 national championships in 4 years. Maybe they weren't quite Alabama of the last 15 years. They were pretty darn close, though. And to see this program struggle, I've spent time in Lincoln. The people are amazing. It crushes me to see Nebraska as bad as they've been. And so it's frustrating. It's disappointing. I've always, like I said, had a soft spot for them in my heart. But again, when you listen to Matt Rhule speak, I believe this team is going to be improved. First of all, you got to go ahead and look at his history, okay? Remember, this is his 3rd coaching stop in college football. Slow build at Temple from 2-10 to 6-6 to 10-4 in year 3 at Temple. That was pre-transfer portal. 1-11 to 7-6 in year 2 at Baylor, pre-transfer portal. Well, now goes 5-7 last year at Nebraska. And I expect there to be some increase this year. And again, a lot of it is based on what he said on Wednesday. First off, he mentioned this. He's like, we have some of the most veteran talent in our roster in college football. And he said, look, I think continuity is going to be a key in college football going forward. This portal thing, players coming, players going, I don't think it's sustainable. And by the way, that wasn't a shot at Lincoln Riley or Deion Sanders. He just said, like, I believe that this is where we are going to go in college football. So you have that. You have a team that reflects what he said. They bring back 17 starters from a year ago. And he mentioned this, which I thought was a little bit swaggy. He said, by the time we get to our bowl game, we're going to have 30 guys on our roster who have graduated from Nebraska. And why that's a little swaggy is, remember, Nebraska hasn't made a bowl game in forever. And so he's basically saying we will be in the postseason, we will be improved. Beyond his record, beyond that, it's also worth noting that, like, this team wasn't that far off last year. And it sounds crazy, like, oh, Nebraska, they stunk, they always stink. It's like, well, no, just go back and look. You know that Nebraska went 5-7 a year ago, but that in their 7 losses, 5 were by a touchdown or less, 4 were by a field goal or less. Field goal loss at Minnesota opening night that Thursday. Field goal loss at Michigan State. Field goal loss, Maryland at home. Field goal loss to Iowa on the final day of the regular season, Black Friday. Not to mention a touchdown overtime loss to Wisconsin in Camp Randall. So they weren't that far off. And then also, what's worth noting, and this is important, and he talked a lot about this on the podium, they were 5-7, despite leading the country in turnovers, okay? Can you believe this stat? They were, what were they? I'm trying to do the quick math here in my head. The turnover margin was -17. Turnover margin of -17 for the Nebraska Cornhuskers. 16 interceptions thrown, 15 fumbles, 31 total turnovers was most in college football by a pretty significant margin. Whatever. 31 turnovers in 12 regular season games is just an absurd number. And it's like what we just said with USC's defense. You don't have to be like insanely better. You just got to be a little bit better in a little bit of a better place and just get a little bit better from the turnovers. Like he said at the podium, he goes, if you can go from minus 17 to plus 7, which isn't even a turnover a game that you're whatever, that's a team that's probably going to win 8 or 9 games. The other thing with Nebraska, that schedule this year is pretty interesting. Again, we talked about it with USC a second ago. But for Nebraska, first of all, you play Colorado in the out-of-conference, so that's kind of interesting in its own right, obviously coming off of the game last year. But on top of that, you do play Ohio State, but no Michigan, no Oregon, no Penn State. Doesn't get much better than that. Producer Matt, what did go ahead and show us what Matt Rhule had to say about that schedule, or what he had to say, at Media Days. He said it, and I think he's right. He said the close losses at Nebraska, it's not an affliction. We don't need to get out of voodoo doll. I actually think Nebraska is a lot closer than people realize. I think they have a chance to be really good this year. Again, you don't have to be significantly improved in turnover margin. You just can't turn the ball over 31 times in a 12-game season. Quarterback play obviously should be improved. We know Dylan Raiola's coming in as the 5-star number 1 player in America. Quarterback play should be improved. Turnovers just have to get a little bit better. And again, I like that schedule. Just look at that schedule one more time. No Oregon, no Penn State, no Michigan. You do have to go to Ohio State, but this is like an 8-9 win schedule. So I'll tell you what, there's a saying we have at Aaron Torres Media: new era, new rules. I believe in Matt Rhule. By the way, we do have those new era, new rules t-shirts available at AaronTorresOnline.com. Yeah, you see it right there. Go ahead and grab one. But listen, I believe in Matt Rhule. I think this program is going to turn things around. If you want kind of like an over-under win projection from the Big Ten, I think Nebraska might be the team that surprises some people. I think they're winning 7-8 games easily, going to a bowl game, and are much improved.